If you have a short attention span, I wouldn't recommend you watching this video. You need to stop overthinking. By the way, I don't think all overthinking is bad, but most of the time when people overthink, it's over negative things. Now, most of the time when you're overthinking and replaying scenarios in your head, whether that be the past, the present, or even the future, for me, it was mostly the future, you realize that you're hindering your ability to move on mentally. Now, what do I mean by this? When you overthink scenarios, all you're doing is replaying a constant scenario in your head and thinking about the different outcomes. And most of the time when it comes to your emotions, your brain can't differentiate between reality and your imagination. Now, I came across someone saying, I don't know who, if you know who, just comment down below. When you constantly replay the situation in your brain, because your brain cannot differentiate between reality and your imagination, most of the time, you continue feeling the feelings you would feel as if the scenario actually happened. Now, for me, I was a bad overthinker, and I still overthink, but just not as bad as I used to. I was so deluded that I thought overthinking was some sort of superpower, and that's how I justify it to myself. As I said earlier, I used to overthink about the future. Now for me, when I'm approached with a certain situation, I tend to see the future outcomes. And most of the time, I would be right. But then when you actually look at it and you think about it, of course you're going to be right. If you're constantly thinking about a topic and thinking about all the different outcomes, just based on probability, you're going to get something right. So for me, that's how I justified it to myself. I constantly saw that, yes, I knew this was going to happen. I thought about it before. So this overthinking thing that I have, it's a superpower, and I can use it to my advantage. But then I realized that this was actually having a negative effect on me. And I'm not saying I don't overthink. I still overthink, but it's more positive rather than negative. Now, when it started getting bad is when I started replaying scenarios in my head that have not happened. It was just a bunch of what ifs. Now, for most people, for me anyways, I would think that all I'm trying to do is take precautions because these things can possibly happen. But 9 times out of 10, all the different scenarios you're thinking about, maybe even one might just happen, or maybe none will happen. And even if it does, so what? You can't undo it now. There's no positives when it comes to negative overthinking. Whether the scenario takes place or it doesn't take place, you don't have to live it now. You don't have to constantly torture yourself. This is self-destruction. Now, the way that I would resolve this, because I believe in God, is that I would just give all my problems to God. I would just tell God, you know what I'm going through, and I'm just going to trust your plan. Now, if you don't believe in God, I recommend you just go with an it is what it is mentality. Your past doesn't actually define you, and you can only focus on the present to build your future. But yeah, main thing is, man, just stop overthinking. It is not worth it. Just embrace the present. And it's crazy that I'm saying this to you guys because only a few months ago, I was the craziest overthinker. And if I came across this video, I'd be like, nah, this guy is waffling, man. Like, genuinely, I believed deep down that I had to live in the future and think about all the future outcomes in order for me to get there. Like, it was crazy hyper-focus on the future, not realizing that I'm literally missing the present. And I think this is the main reason as to why successful people tell us to embrace this part of the journey. But maybe, just maybe, that's what got them there, you know, constantly living in the future. But for me personally, I'd rather stay anxious-free, but still take the necessary steps for my future, as I don't see it as a problem since I'm very productive. But what's changed is that I'm not so anxious about the future as I previously was.